Starting out life on the PlayStation 2, the Monster Hunter series has continued to innovate and improve with each subsequent release. The 3DS was home to several iterations of the franchise, but when it comes to sheer graphical fidelity, Monster Hunter Stories really impresses on the handheld. The first thing that will strike you is the sheer size and detail of each environment you'll find yourself exploring. Each location packs a bunch of subtle touches that helps the world come to life and feel like a real space. Matching this are the various monsters you'll be hunting that all range in scale and appearance. At times some of them can fill the entire screen with a demanding presence that can be quite daunting when trying to take them out. Of course, like previous entries in the series, there's a pretty robust character creation tool in place that allows you to freely design your hunter with a ton of ways to express yourself. Once out on the field and in the action, each animation feels incredibly smooth and every attack and special ability fiercely amps up the adrenaline of each encounter. Particle effects litter the screen as you hack away at enemies, and although it's not that impressive when compared to its home console counterparts, the colourful and playful nature of Story's visuals help the overall adventure shine. Kid Icarus Uprising is a gorgeous game that doesn't skimp on any of the details. Right from the get-go, you'll notice the vibrant and colourful menus, but in terms of actual gameplay, the stages are downright stunning. Aerial battles completely steal the show, and are absolutely incredible to look at. Land battles don't look nearly as good in comparison, and the stages in which they take place upon aren't nearly as ambitious. However, that doesn't mean land battles are really that bad. They're still a treat to look at, and you'll easily be overcome by some of the stages you will get to explore on foot. Sakurai and his team did a really good job at giving the old characters a new makeover, and the several new ones that are introduced look fantastic as well. I won't go into too much detail, but there are many unexpected characters from Greek mythology that appear in the adventure and help propel it even further into something unforgettable. Kid Icarus arguably makes the best use out of the system's 3D effect by enhancing the already incredible visuals. It does have the potential to make the frame rate dip upon turning it on, but it's nothing that detracts from the overall experience. If you missed Kid Icarus Uprising when it first released, it's a game that well and truly deserves your attention. Samus Returns is essentially a complete remake of the Game Boy classic Metroid 2. The original adventure was brought soaring into the modern age with the 3DS reimagining and took full advantage of the extra power the handheld offers. One key aspect of the overall visual presentation that needs commending have to be the animations. Upon first gaining control of Samus, the haste and fluidity of the classic run and gun Metroid playstyle feels solid and responsive. Each move and attack packs a real punch, which engulf the screen with various effects that lend a real weight to the actions you can perform in the game. Like most Metroidvanias, location plays a big part in the overall experience, and Samus Returns does not disappoint. A great amount of diversity is afforded to the environment you'll be encountering, from purple-soaked caves to the scalding lava pits that dwell in the depths. Each of them are home to a range of enemies that all possess the same amount of detail that's afforded to the main character of Samus. It helps them all blend in seamlessly with the intricate backgrounds of each location, and that's not even mentioning some of the incredible bosses that can literally fill the entire screen. Now, it's all running at 30 frames per second, which might be a bit disappointing to some long-time Metroid fans, but once you see it up and running in person, it's something that slowly negates itself, as the action is just as well presented and fast-paced like the various entries of the series past. After the first outing on the GameCube, many thought the next installment would appear on one of Nintendo's at the time latest home consoles, but it instead came to the 3DS. Now, the visuals present within the game are one of the real highlights of the experience. The mansions are dark and very believable, with impressive effects such as flashes of lightning that briefly light a room or corridor that you're in. Luigi carries a flashlight attached to his Poltergust 5000 that brightens up any area that it is shone upon, and you can tell the developers used a pretty powerful lighting engine to pull it off. Due to this, however, the game runs at a seemingly low frame rate. It works very well for the game, and I encountered zero slowdown whatsoever in my playthrough. All 5 mansions that are included are incredibly varied and unique, making each area feel very distinct from the last. I can safely say that I was surprised at the variety that the game offers, and it helps it from becoming stale. This is one of the games on the system that really shows off what the 3DS is capable of, allowing the world and more importantly importantly, Luigi's personality to shine. With it being expressed in such a humorous way, it lends the game a serious amount of charm that is bound to put a smile on the face of anyone who plays it. Bravely Default is easily one of the most impressive 3DS games out there, the only possible complaint being the chibi style characters, though I personally feel that style served the game well. The art direction is the real star of the show and makes up for the somewhat simple presentation by producing some of the most incredible scenery, which is undeniably gorgeous. Each environment that you come across presents a ton of small details that can easily be missed, so I found myself letting the camera zoom in just to get a better view of the various locations. When it first released, I even spent quite a bit of time posting pictures of the game to Miiverse because it felt incredibly wrong not to share this kind of beauty with others. Of special note were the towns, all of which boasted really intricate, unique and original designs that helped the world of Bravely Default come to life in a way that had not been seen before on the handheld. The game is also able to dish up some absolutely stunning summons and special attacks during battle, some of which really blew me away upon performing them. Not only that, but the stereoscopic 3D effect is really strong and well utilized as well. Though there is a bit more ghosting present than I'm used to seeing from a top tier 3DS game, it's nothing that compromises the overall quality of the adventure. Bravely Default is one of the most fantastic looking RPGs on the system, with a ton of detail that will at times make you sit back in awe. Smash Bros on the 3DS is one of the most impressive fighting games on the system. It brings over nearly every aspect fans know and love about the series, and just as impressive as the core gameplay mechanics and varied roster is the unprecedented visual quality. It's really unlike anything you've seen on a portable before. The on-screen action runs just as fluidly and smooth as the home console version, and consistently runs at an impressive 60 frames per second. The various pictures or videos online do not do this game justice. You really have to play it for yourself in order to truly appreciate everything the team behind it managed to achieve. Each character is well presented and comes to life on the small screen with an unprecedented amount of style and finesse, matching them in the several stages that facilitate each encounter, which all manage to feel alive with interactive elements and dynamic backgrounds, which make each of them feel like completely unique spaces. Complementing all of these aspects are the animations of each and every move the characters can perform. Particle effects light up the screen as you dash from one move to the next, and all come together to create one of the most visually impressive games available on the handheld. Various fighting games released for the 3DS, such as Street Fighter 4 and Tekken to name a couple, but when it comes to sheer looks, Dead or Alive Dimensions has to be the clear winner. Like most games in the series, visual fidelity has always been at the forefront, and the 3DS release is no exception. It's all presented in a stunning 60 frames per second, that then gets cut in half if you choose to use the stereoscopic 3D feature. During gameplay, if you pay close attention to each fight, it reveals intricate facial animations and subtle graphical touches that dynamically react to the action on screen, such as clothing swinging in the wind, particle effects that naturally reflect off each character in the background, which all comes together to help bring an extra layer of depth to the visual style. Each of the character models are lovingly designed and presented, which only complements the beautiful way in which they're animated. Carrying out moves and special attacks during each encounter feels incredibly smooth and lends a real sense of realism to each fight. On top of all of this, each area you find yourself fighting in are also highly detailed, from the snowy mountaintops to the domineering temples of Japan. The sheer diversity of them is outstanding, and with several interactive elements as well, they are some of the most impressive to ever come out of the series. If you're fond of fighters and are looking to pick one up on the 3DS, Dead or Alive Dimensions is a great option. I've always had a soft spot for the Kingdom Hearts series since being introduced to it on the PlayStation 2. When the news hit that the 3DS would be receiving an entry in the long-running franchise, I was at first apprehensive as to how it would make the transition to Nintendo's handheld, but upon booting up the game, all of those worries soon faded away. Like previous entries, players get to visit a multitude of worlds from Disney's back catalogue, which are all lovingly recreated for the adventure. From the Disney castle itself to the Keyblade graveyard, each of them bring the game to life and lend the experience an overall playful quality. This aspect of the game is fantastic, as each world is an incredibly large space that packs a ton of detail. Just exploring each of them is a real joy within itself, matching the detail of each environment to the character models that all look and animate fluidly, making the ensuing action of Keyblade battles a true sight to behold. Cutscenes as well are very well presented that help the narrative shine. In all seriousness, at points it looks on par with the PlayStation 2 entries that started the entire series, except this time the adventure is in the palm of your hands and can be taken wherever you may go. Visually, you will not come away disappointed. It meets the high standard for the series despite being on the graphically inferior handheld of that generation. Super Mario 3D Land has to be the one game that presents the best use of the 3D feature on the console. When popping the game in for the first time, it's a real sight to behold. Every aspect of the visual design literally pops off the screen. It is a gorgeous game whether you play it in full 3D with the depth slider up all of the way or completely turned off. However, those with the slider jacked up will be able to judge distances much more efficiently. The added layer really adds an extra dimension to the gameplay, which makes it a much more enjoyable adventure. On top of this, effects like giant spiked pillars coming from the background and thrusting themselves towards the foreground cannot be put into words how incredible it is to see it in full stereoscopic 3D. It's like they're about to puncture your screen. The visuals are simply sensational, with tremendous special effects such as fire to raindrops bouncing off the floor and flowers dispersing their pollen when Mario tramples them. It's the little things like this that make Mario's 3D adventure so eye-popping and wonderful. Overall, in my eyes, Super Mario 3D Land is the best Mario outing on the system, and it's still worth picking up and playing to this day. Resident Evil Revelations has always been one of my go-to games when discussing the 3DS. Anyone who's had some time with the system and played many of the games that it offers will already know what the handheld is capable of, but Revelations takes that capability to an entirely new level. While most of the game takes place in tight dark corridors, there is no lack of enormous, visually outstanding rooms and environments that will literally make your jaw drop upon seeing them. The environments and character models are not quite as detailed as Resident Evil 4, but they do come close. Basic but impressive use of lighting effects such as swinging lights, flickering vending machines, and even Jill's use of a flashlight in pitch dark areas can make any given room a lot more scarier than it might have been otherwise. Unfortunately, there are some cases of minor slowdowns, especially upon reaching a point where enemies will spawn in, but it's the only fault I've managed to find with the visual presentation. The stereoscopic 3D feature is used as one might expect and adds an extra level of depth to the on-screen action, although I personally prefer playing this one with it turned off. Well, that does it for today's video. Don't forget to hit subscribe and follow me on all of the socials to stay up to date, and as always, thanks for taking the time out of your day to watch the video. I will catch you next time.